Hey, what's up, everybody? Um, you know, a couple years ago, basically back in 2009, I did a video where I talked about sort of the highlights of New Partners on the Block, the very rare transitional episode, which I also consider to be the sequel to the pilot Going Bonkers. Well, I decided to, I guess you can see, as you see the title up there, give you a bit more of a review and kind of highlight a few things, if you will, as to why New Partners on the Block was as good as some people say it is. Kind of give you an idea as to why a lot of people proclaim it, excuse me while I move this camera here, is a very, very good episode. There we go. Give you a better look there. But why they proclaim it as a very good episode? Very rare transitional sequel-like episode. And why they like it? Well, first of all, let's just say this about New Partners. I'll give Disney a lot of credit. In fact, I'll give the guy that they brought in to do the Lucky Paquel episodes a lot of credit. He came in, and I said this in my History of Bonkers video. Trying to straighten it out for you guys. There we go. And I said this in my History of Bonkers video. Here we go. Go a little more light on the subject. That he understood that a lot of fans that kind of got a sneak preview of the show in early 1993, basically February, and into February of that year and spring and summer of that year, they'd be asking the question of, where's Miranda? Where is she? Now, she did make a cameo appearance in the episode Hear No Bonkers, See No Bonkers, as the chief's secretary. She did make that appearance. Let's make that perfectly clear, if you will. She did make that appearance. But that's about. Ooh, sorry about that. Didn't mean to zoom in too much there. There we go. But that's about it. She just made her appearance in that episode, and that was about it. Just like a 5-second, 10-second appearance. But again, he pretty much knew that fans were going to want to know exactly where she was. Now, we didn't get an introduction to her name just yet. We didn't get an introduction to her name just yet until a certain scene comes up, and I'll explain that in a minute. Now, the way this episode was done was basically, I'll give him credit. The title right off the bat kind of catches your eye. It says New Partners on the Block. And you're thinking to yourself, well, what does this mean? What does New Partners on the Block mean? And it doesn't occur to you at first. It doesn't occur to you at first that there's something going to happen here, something special. But what is it? Well, besides the chief, the first person to actually speak in this episode is Miranda. Basically, the chief's trying to look for an announcement for his briefing, for the briefing that he's holding. And there we go. I'll make sure I get all the characters in there. But anyway, he's trying to find the announcement for the briefing he's holding. And it's Miranda who stands up after he's looking and finding all these different things, like these car tickets, I think there's a this bounced check, and then the summons for, I guess, jury duty or something like that. It's Miranda that kind of shows him the announcement, kind of pulls the announcement out of his uniform, out of his pockets inside out of his uniform or something like that. I don't know. Kind of finds the announcement right off the bat and says, "Is this what you're looking for, sir?" So, and that makes it the second one. You think, oh, it's just. Now, at first you might think, oh, it's just another just some kind of one-off character that's just going to say something and that's it. But it's not, because when you look at all the other episodes with Lucky, never once did you actually see, and this is something I want you to think about. All the officers in that episode, in those Lucky episodes, if there were any just like one-shot characters, were, well, they had black hair or they had brown hair. And in this case, Miranda had blonde. She didn't have brown or black, she had blonde. So it kind of made her stand out a little bit. So you say to yourself, this could be interesting. This could be interesting right off the bat. And then you find out exactly what's going on, who the villain is, do this briefing and all that, and the importance as to how big this case is for the police sergeant, for the police department, and how big of a case it is for Lucky. And when you, again, the way the villain is described and everything, and basically how it's announced how he's kidnapped an FBI agent and holding that FBI agent hostage, it starts to kind of filter in a little bit. It starts to slowly enter your mind that, there might be something more to this episode than just the title and the fact that this chief and this character that looks like a character I've seen before, maybe not, is the first one's talking. And then it really starts to hit you a little bit when Lucky makes the decision that he wants to solve this case without Bonkers' help. In other words, it shows you how big this case is. And I'll give him credit right off the bat, You could definitely almost feel the importance of how big the case is. And especially you feel it even more so when you start seeing that, unlike all the other episodes with Lucky, Lucky wants to do this one by himself. He wants to do this one by himself without anybody's help. Especially Bonkers. Well, reluctantly, he ends up getting Bonkers' help, whether he likes it or not. But what occurs is that when they finally do track down the villain, what occurs is something that makes you even think, oh my God, Disney actually killed off a character. Because what happens is when they finally corner the villain to where, they followed him to, Lucky accidentally trips over a bomb wire, if you will, and triggers the place where they basically followed the villain to. Hold on for a second. Where they actually followed the villain to causes the place to explode. Now again, it makes you think, oh my God, they actually killed off a character. Because you don't really see the character for at least a few minutes. But it's so believable. And if it's your first time watching the episode, you think to yourself, oh my God. And I like how they kind of make you feel sorry for Bonkers, feel his pain a little bit. You can almost feel sorry for the guy. And I like how they kind of make it seem like, they killed the character off by making Bonkers remember everything about him. about like how he was every day, Monday through Friday. But here's the thing. Here's what makes you finally realize what the title was all about, though. During this, here's what makes you realize what the title was talking about the whole time. The title was actually talking about Bonkers and this blonde woman, this blonde-haired officer, becoming a team. Because who's the one that comforts Bonkers after this whole situation, after this whole ordeal? Why, none other than this blonde-haired officer, whose name you don't know of just yet. So, well, that's of course for those that haven't seen the episodes involving her on Disney Channel before this. But you don't know her name just yet. So, but it kind of shows you the importance of just even the most overlooked officer, because they do kind of they do the half-mast deal, and kind of show you the importance of like, oh man, this character is basically being written out, and you kind of get that feeling that even though later on you find out in typical Disney show fashion that the character did survive, you kind of already have it established just by this following scene that they're going to write the character out of the show. Now, again, I give them credit for doing a great job in making things, believable and really helping you to feel for Bonkers and his loss, because this is basically his best friend that he's lost. So I give the writer of this episode a lot of credit. I really do. The importance of the episode and the meaning of the title of the episode really start to hit home in these next few scenes. But here's one thing that makes me realize that this writer was working with the other writers of the show, or the other previous writers, I should say, of the show. Hold on for a second. Like I said, but here's the other thing that makes me realize that this writer wasn't just working with his team, or their team, but working with other different teams, but obviously another team, another writing team, another animation team. Because here's what happens. Here's one of the highlights about this. And I love this. This kind of tells you right off the bat that this is not just a special episode, not just by title and everything. That this isn't just a mid-season finale, mid-season premiere, whatever you want to call it, a season 1 finale, season 2 premiere. And that this just isn't a sequel to the pilot. But the highlight that I like about this, and I commend them for this, is they had all the characters from the Raw Tunage days that also appeared in the pilot episode in the sequel. That's right. You never saw these characters except maybe in small cameos or flashbacks. And that was it. And the only other exception, like I said, was the pilot episode. Or the pilot movie. But again, you never saw them after that, except for very small cameos and flashbacks, if you know what I mean. But they actually had them in there, and what impressed me is they allowed them to speak a lot more, have more speaking and screen time than they did in the pilot. They allowed the first character to speak was the Fondier character, this character here. She was the first one to speak out of the three. Then after, of course, the rabbit character, the Fall Apart Rabbit character that was in the Lucky episodes, after he spoke briefly, then you had the dog speak. Then after the rabbit spoke again, then you had the bear, the Grumbles, characters speak. So that was really, really interesting and really, really intriguing. I liked that. I really did. I liked it, and it was really, it was just like it's just like they knew. It's just that, again, I commend this writing team for what they did, because they knew this was going to be a special episode. They knew this was going to be a bit of a transitional episode. This was going to be a transitional episode. It was going to be a finale, premiere episode, if you will, and in my case, a sequel to the pilot, that they had to basically, in my honest opinion, they knew they had to make this just as special and as important as the pilot episode itself was. And I'll give them credit, they did just that. They did just that. I mean, I like how you have the characters who Lucky helped Bonkers rescue, Bonkers' main friends, all there doing a memorial, as part of this memorial dinner. And then you have them all looking up these cans, which Lucky is riding on, because we do find out that Lucky's alive. He had survived the blast, but just like the FBI agent, is being held prisoner and hostage by the villain. So I like how, again, I like how they, they're kind of, along with the character, the blonde character, or the blonde-haired officer, whose name we finally find out, for those that are new to her, is Miranda Wright. Basically, with her help, along with her, they start looking through the cans and trying to find the message that Lucky was writing out to anybody that would, find the cans and, decipher the message. I also like how they, I also say this, this is also like how they kind of help show Bonkers' maturity, if not his evolution as an officer, because he's able to decipher a police code right off the bat. Anyway, we also get introduced to Miranda's boss, who's under the chief, but her boss, Sergeant Grading, who, as we'll eventually find out, kind of takes the place of Lucky in the disdain for Tombs department, but has more of a disdain than Lucky, and it takes a longer time than Lucky to really warm up to Tombs and accept them for who they are. But, just a great scene, a great highlight scene to see those characters together in that scenario. The overall climax about this, I mean, I like how they do this before the final commercial. I like how they make you think, along with Miranda and Fall Apart, that Bonkers just got the hell blown out of him by a bazooka, and this is also another way of telling you that the characters that things are transitioning over to her eventually being Bonkers' new partner, because you have Lucky and Bonkers' junked up, wrecked up police car just literally blown to smithereens, just literally blown up. And again, that kind of tells you, when they go that far, it makes you realize, wow, there's got to be some kind of importance to this episode, or else they wouldn't be doing this. The overall climax was great because you got to see all the characters. You got to see him rescue Lucky and the FBI agent. You got to see Lucky finally achieve his big moment with the help of Bonkers and Miranda, and even the FBI agent. You got to see him, like I say, achieve his big moment, and overall, you kind of, like I said, got to see the transition complete itself. I'm sorry for the background noise, that's my dog drinking her water. But anyway, overall, you got to see the transition after this climax, where, like I say, Lucky got to achieve his big moment by capturing the villain, whose name was 5R Frank, and because he was a terrorist / bomb terrorist. Basically, the climax, which led to, like I said, him achieving his big moment, I like how right after, you see everything comes full circle. You kind of see the transition, become complete as the chief not only commends Bonkers and Miranda with a few slight disciplinary actions, if you will, like a probationary period and no increase in salary kind of deal, whatever. I like how, like you say, you can see the transition come full circle, and Miranda and Bonkers become a team, and Lucky finally achieves his big moment by not by being promoted by the chief, but by actually being offered a position with the FBI, which would allow him and his family and certain characters like Fall Apart and Toots and the Roderick Radio to be written out of the show. So, I also like that they have a moment between Miranda and Lucky, because after Lucky pulled, and that's one thing I want to commend them on. They actually have a moment between Lucky and Miranda, kind of like a passing of the torch, where she goes up to him, wishes him luck, and he says, "Thank you, Miranda, but I think you'll need the luck." So to me, I like how they kind of put a passing of the torch thing there. That was pretty cool. So overall, this was a very, very good, well done episode. I guess you could say season finale, season premiere, transitional episode / sequel to the pilot. Because to me, they brought everything. I mean, they put everything down on this situation. They definitely put all hands on deck for this episode. I mean, they brought in the previous team. Watch my History of Bonkers video and you'll see what I mean. They had worked on the Miranda episodes beforehand, because Miranda was supposed to be the primary character off the bat as Bonkers' partner. But they brought them in, obviously, in my opinion, to work with the newer team to create this episode. And that's what I mean by having all hands on deck kind of situation. Really putting everything on the table with this episode. I really liked it. It was a tremendous way to send off the characters, to kind of write out, the Piquel family, Lucky and his family, and, the other characters like Fall Apart and Toots and Roderick. I like how it enabled them to be written out without, just blatantly going into an episode with Miranda as his partner, and you're wondering, where's Lucky? What happened there? They didn't do that. They didn't do that. They didn't do that right off the bat. I mean, yes, nowadays, if you would have watched the Bonkers series, or had watched the Bonkers series on Toon Disney, when it was Toon Disney, then yes, it's very understanding that you would look at it and say, well, wait a minute, who's this new partner? What happened? Where's the Lucky Piquel? Where's the Lucky Piquel character? This episode basically gives you an idea of how it happened. They didn't pull no punches with this. Like I said, they didn't jump the shark and say, oh, he's just paired with somebody else now. They didn't jump the shark or anything. They basically pulled no punches. They went all the way with this, and I commend them for that. And I commend them for that and doing what they had to do to, give fans an explanation. And I actually applaud the writer. I think his name's Larry Lantham, I believe, of the Lucky Piquel episodes, for coming out and coming up with this idea. I think maybe with the help of Dwayne Capizza and Greg Weismer, to come up with this idea to make this episode happen, because, again, it definitely bridges the gap between Bonkers having Lucky as a partner and Miranda as a partner, and explains how Miranda and Bonkers became a team, just like the pilot episode explained how Lucky and Bonkers became a team. So I like that, and that's why I also consider it to be a sequel to the pilot, as well as some people put it, a season premiere, a season 2 premiere, and a season finale, and so on and so forth. I like how they brought back in the characters like Fawn and Jitters and Grumbles to be part of that memorial dinner, and kind of have more of an active role a little bit in that one or two scenes, as well as have more screen and speaking time. I really enjoyed that. So it was definitely, again, to me, they definitely put a lot of effort and a lot of a lot of effort and basically 150% into this episode. And again, as a fan, I really applaud them for it. So that's all I'm going to say about this. Comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. But again, I commend them for what they did. I mean, it was just tremendous. I mean, they definitely went all hands on deck with this. If you can see it, go ahead. You can find it here on YouTube. Depending on your language, it's in English. There's an English version and there's a Russian, German version. So look for it here on YouTube. I'm pretty sure you can find it. But I highly recommend this if you want to have an idea of how Bonkers went from Lucky to Miranda. So, excuse me. So definitely check it out. Worth the time. Definitely great. Very well done. They put definitely a lot of work. Again, hands-on deck situation with this. And I give it a 10 out of 10. One of the best of all time. That's all I'm going to say about it. And, oh, just one little note before I go. In case you're wondering, when it did appear on Toon Disney, before Toon Disney became Disney XD, if you're wondering why this episode was never shown in the lineup, and even before that in syndication, it was because 1995. Something happened in 1995, an event that changed this country a little bit, if not changed a certain city in Oklahoma for quite some time. So there's your answer right there. But the benefit is, but the bright side of that, the silver lining is, it's not the only Disney episode with that kind of a theme or that kind of villain or that kind of character as its villain, that's been banned due to its sensitivity, due to what the story's based around it, or who the villain is and stuff like that. That's the only silver lining. But overall, highly recommend you see this if you could catch it. And 10 out of 10, definitely one of the best. And I think, if anything, they should have, if they wanted to re-release this show on VHS, as back in the day, back in the 90s, or if they wanted to follow the same thing they had done with the Mighty Ducks animated show, then they should have put these three episodes together as one movie. So that's all I'm going to say. Comment down below, tell me what you think, and I'll talk to you all later. Video responses are welcome too.